It's time for TigerNet Talk with L. Swan.
That's why Carolina's in Chapel Hill and USC's in California. And the university in this state always has been, always will be, Clemson. Print that, tweet that.
And I hope they come in undefeated. That's what I told you before the game. Our team believes. Our team believes. They got heart. We got greatness in us. They say we can't do it. What they say now?
Down go the champs. Auburn's 17-game win streak comes to an end.
Welcome into another edition of TigerNet Talk. I'm your host, Lawton Swan. Glad to be here with you, broadcasting live on the front page of TigerNet.com and also on Vocal. That's VOKLE.com. We've got a ton of people in the chat room, and I know that if you're on the front page of TigerNet.com, you are hearing us right now. But trust me, you want to stay with us as we have Clemson legend Perry Tuttle joining us here on the program in just a little bit. So you want to stay tuned for that. It's going to be an exciting night as we get a chance to have him on the program and spend some time with one of the greats and one of the only Clemson Tigers, no, make that the only Clemson Tiger to ever appear on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Now, he is not the only person, though, that's going to be on the show tonight who has been in Sports Illustrated. I think that's a point that needs to be made. There was once an article about your Clemson Tigers. Behold these Tigers. You've got Greg Buckner there and Terrell McIntyre as basketball season looms. And no, it's not going to be Greg and it's not going to be Terrell who are going to be joining us. That would be awesome. Believe me, that would be awesome if those guys would be on here. But the other guy who has been in Sports Illustrated that's going to be on the show tonight is, of course, if you're looking at the screen, you may be able to make out that fellow right over there. Yes, your lovely host of the program there, who was a little John Looney, was in a couple of shots there during that Sports Illustrated. So we've got two people here on the program, technically, who have been in Sports Illustrated. I, however, will probably never be on the cover. But Perry will join us in about 15 minutes, so stay around for that. You're going to love it. He is a fantastic guy. And don't forget, we're giving away a Vostok cooler on tonight's program. The folks over at Vostok Coolers, that's VOSTOK Coolers.com. You can go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com as well and see their link there over in the sponsors section over on the left-hand side. We've got all our links over there to all our sponsors, web design, we've got insurance, we've got dental, everything you could need, everything you could want, really. And we're going to take it back to the old school here this week with some of the old promos or some of our cuts as we get out of each and every segment. There was an old album called Tiger Fever, Ode to the Paws and Claws. It may take some of you back. We've recently done a lot with the song We Too Deep, the Clemson Anthem, written by a couple of Clemson Tigers, and some other songs, Chad Kelly. I know those things are hits. But you wait until you hear some of these old school songs that came out back in 1981. And there was an article in the Herald Journal back in September of 1981, before Clemson won the national championship, obviously. And this gets into this album called Ode to the Paws and Claws. We'll definitely put that link in the show notes for you. We'll put that in on the YouTube video as well. And, of course, you can always get iTunes editions of the program available for you. Well, the Tigers finish up their road schedule 4-1 for the first time in 15 years. Excuse me, the second time in 15 years that they've pulled that feat off, which is big considering the final three games are at home. And when you look at how this team closed last season, we mentioned on Clemson Hotline on Sunday night, 9 p.m., right here on TigerNet as well, that this Clemson Tiger team has learned a lot, I think, from last year. And more importantly, in his first season as the starting quarterback, Taj Boyd really grew up. And it may not have occurred until the offseason, but we definitely have seen him grow and mature. And I don't think, even though he's thrown a few interceptions, some of which in that Duke game really weren't his fault, that he's taken these things to heart. He seems very mature and still playing at a very high level. He hasn't put on any weight, still very quick. I saw a great article written by none other than Mickey Plyler on TigerNet.com just today, I believe it was, talking about Clemson's greatest quarterback, and is Taj Boyd that guy? And comparing Taj to some of the legends who have played at Clemson, Homer Jordan, Steve Fuller, Rodney Williams, Charlie Whitehurst, Woodrow Dantzler, who's been a recent guest on our show. Maybe even Cullen Harper put up some outstanding numbers. But when you look at the job that has been done by Taj Boyd in such a limited amount of time, such a small window of time, the efficiency, now he's playing with the best 2 wide receivers this program has ever seen. And I can't wait to talk with Perry Tuttle about that shortly, about these wide receivers and about Taj Boyd and the job this offense has done and about his time as well. But for me, I think it's far and away right now as good and as athletic as Woodrow Dantzler was, and maybe the figure that Woodrow Dantzler has become in Clemson lore because of what he was able to do with much less talent around him. He will probably go down as the all-time greatest quarterback in a lot of people's minds. But I think when you start looking statistically, if Taj Boyd sticks around, which I think he really will, he's going to blow records out the door that we may never see broken, even by Chad Kelly, maybe even Deshaun Watson, who I think is going to be an unbelievable player when he gets on campus at Clemson. You've got a lot of really good players who are going to come into a system that really fosters and harvests the quarterback. We've got Chris in the chat room, Clemson Tom checking in, Tommy Chastain, Vicky, everybody's in. Y'all come on in. 100-plus viewers here on the program this evening as we are live again on the front page of TigerNet. And don't forget to stick around because Perry Tuttle will join us. The Clemson Tigers go to have an opportunity this weekend to set the all-time wins record in Death Valley and tie the overall winning streak in Clemson's history at 12 at home. They did have a 12-game winning streak back in 1927 to 1930, but the games weren't played, of course, at Memorial Stadium. That didn't open until 1942. Plus, Clemson is one of only a few teams, Baylor, Alabama, and Oregon State. So that's 4 teams in America who are going to close the regular season with a home game each and every weekend. And I don't think that you could ask for anything more at this point. You've gone through the gauntlet. And now you get Maryland, a team who has, you have to feel for them in some way, shape, or form at this point. At the quarterback position, just week after week, losing quarterbacks, all the way to the point of having to bring a young man over from the defensive side of the ball to play the quarterback position after being a linebacker. I mean, that's a tough thing to get over. And it doesn't matter what offense you are running. And when they had C.J. Brown last season against Clemson, and when they had Danny O'Brien, those guys were legitimate quarterbacks who were threatening. O'Brien could throw the football. You look at the job C.J. Brown did last season with his legs. They were one of the teams, when I look back at my preseason notes, I thought, well, this is a team that's not very good, but given what happened last year on the road, I really believed that they might be one of those teams kind of in the middle of the season, right here at the back end. You got a couple of big games between against NC State and South Carolina remaining. Maybe Clemson could have looked past them, and a guy like Brown with his unbelievable skills could have gotten the best of a Clemson defense that did start off rough. But as the numbers started falling, as guys started falling off there, all of a sudden the threat offensively from Maryland doesn't seem to exist. So I think it's a very good chance that you get to see your Clemson Tigers set the home game winning streak. That doesn't include ties. There have been longer streaks that had ties. But for consecutive games won at home, you've got a really good shot in this one against Maryland. And let's don't forget that Dabo Swinney has come in and put the death back in Death Valley. 24-4 all-time at home for Dabo Swinney. This team is really, really clicking right now offensively. Taj Boyd, 5 touchdown passes in the first half of the past 2 ball games. I mean, that's legitimate. That's big-time numbers. That's getting him, as I mentioned on Clemson Hotline, into the Heisman talk. We got a ton of people here hanging out with us. Really do appreciate you stopping by. Looking forward to, after this break, Clemson legend Perry Tuttle will join us right here on the Clemson Hotline. on TigerNet Talk. I know for a fact Perry told me he was going to be at the Charlotte Bobcats game this evening, so I'm hoping that we will be able to catch him. I'm hoping that game is over with. We'll give him a call during the break, and when we come back, you got it. Sports Illustrated cover man from the January 11th edition, 1982. The Orange Bowl hero, Perry Tuttle, right after these messages. Stay with us.
So tough, can't you tell that we ballin'? And these boys can't hold us back. 81 championship, and best believe we going back. Clemson, we all in. One team with one dream.
We're on the quest for the best, and we can't let anything hold us back.
These boys can't hold us back. These boys can't hold us back.
Enjoy the Clemson football season at Seasons by the Lake Restaurant. Tiger Tailgate on the Terrace at Seasons Restaurant will be held every Clemson football game day, rain or shine, home or away, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for those day games and noon to midnight for the evening kickoffs. Enjoy a large screen TV, a Bloody Mary and mimosa bar, specialty drinks, and a great tailgate menu, all on the Seasons Terrace. For more information, call 656-7444. or visit their Facebook page, facebook.com/Seasons by the Lake. I hope to see you on the terrace.
We scoop the boot, dutycalls.com. When nobody else will do it, dutycalls.com. To make that dog poop go away, call or click for a free quote today.
When nature calls, we answer. To get a free quote for dog poop removal, go to dutycalls.com now.
DOODYCALLS. Dutycalls.com.
In the Midlands area, dial 1-800-DUTY-CALLS. They're number 1 and number 2. G-Dog General Dentistry at Oak Grove is located on Highway 1 near the Barnyard Flea Market. Modern, relaxing dentistry with TVs and headphones in every room, nitrous and even oral sedation. Digital diagnostic x-rays for better quality and 85% less radiation exposure. And check out their new Clemson Patient Special. Mention that you heard about G-Dog here on the Clemson Sports Talk programs and receive an extra 5% off all services through football season. If you don't have a regular dentist, go see my dentist, Dr. Rick Jackson at G-Dog. That's General Dentistry at Oak Grove. Are you a landowner who owns more than 10 acres that's interested in selling timber or pulpwood off your property? Cross Creek Timber is a full-service timber procurement company that buys standing saw timber and pulpwood. They're staffed with professional licensed foresters and fully insured with both workers' comp and general liability insurance. Let Cross Creek Timber develop the appropriate harvesting plan for your property and answer any questions regarding forest management. Call today, 864-517-3620. That's 864-517-3620 for your free woodland evaluation, or visit www.crosscreektimber.com.
On Saturday morning, I don't sleep late. I eat an early breakfast and I head out for the game. I gotta get there early to watch the Tigers play. The dogs are in town, we'll blow them away. I've got my orange t-shirt, got my orange hat, even orange underwear. What you think of that? I'm an orange fan.
Now, the quality there on the orange fan in Orange Land is not exactly top-notch, as we had to take that off of a record. And for you kids that don't know what a record is, it looks a lot like a Frisbee. They always joke at me, they always pick on me a little bit because they feel like I'm so old here in the chat room. I am not that old. I did spend 7 glorious years as an undergrad. That's straight through. The guys in the chat room saw me on the telephone. They thought I was ordering pizza. I was actually giving a call to none other than Perry Tuttle. We are still waiting for Perry, though. Hopefully he will give us a call back here in studio. If not, we will call him back during the next break, which is coming up in about 15 minutes or so. So stick around. Hopefully we will have him on. If he calls in, don't worry. We're going to stop whatever we're talking about and jump right in with Perry Tuttle. It's going to be a great interview. Got a lot to get to with him and look forward to spending some time with him. And let me say this about Perry Tuttle, because I don't know him personally, but I do know this. Every time I've gotten a chance to meet him, he has been spectacular. He has taken the time to speak to you, to me at least, I've never once been put off by him. He realizes, I think, the importance that what he did in making the game-winning catch in the Orange Bowl for the Clemson Tigers, what that means and what his time at Clemson means to the Clemson Tiger fans, much like all the guests we've had on this year. I mean, if you've listened to the interviews, you have heard some outstanding interviews. Woody Dantzler, Daquan Bowers, Joe Bostic. The list goes on. And every one of those guys who has come in here has been so humble and so polite. It's no surprise that these guys have been successful, not just on the field, but off the field. And that's one thing that I really like about the direction of our program right now, that we see from these Clemson Tiger players when they're interviewed. You have almost to a man, yes, sir, no, sir, guys. Guys who are not only getting their education, they're playing football, they're learning a lot about life, they're growing up. And that's something that I really think you can't discount when you start talking about building a program and building a reputation nationally that Dabo Swinney is really trying to do. And it was odd that we started to see some articles right after this past week when I wrote about in my post that I don't need my team perfect. I need them consistent. And, David Hood, who covers the Clemson Tigers for TigerNet.com, does a great job. He had an article, Tigers Being Built for a Sustained Run, and that's exactly what I was talking about in my post. You don't have to be perfect any longer. All you have to do is be consistent, and they'll put you at the top of the polls each and every year, and you'll have a chance. And even if you lose a game, you've still got a chance. You still will have a chance at the end of the year to play for the national title, especially when that window opens up a little bit more. Looking out at Twitter, CU Tailgater is hollering at Chain Train to wake up and get on vocal for TN Talk. Hashtag TN Talk on Twitter, 803-450-0086. 803-450-0086 is the way you can reach us. And you can also leave us a voicemail if you go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com over on the right-hand side. I can't believe I haven't heard from the chat room at all. You only have to have a microphone on your computer and you're ready to go. We got a text question here. Let's see. I'll tell you what, we're going to hold that one, Chris, since it is for Perry. We'll wait for that one until he gets here with us. I do want to tell you all, though, this, and it's very important. Obviously, there's nothing more exciting than the Clemson-Carolina football game. I know you guys love it, no doubt about it. But before you cheer for your favorite team to victory this year on the football field, help them win the 28th annual Clemson-Carolina Blood Drive, November 12th through the 16th, on both USC and Clemson campuses. From 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., there will be multiple locations across Clemson's campus, including the Palmetto Ballroom and the Student Union, the Hendrick Center, and several Bloodmobiles. One unit can save up to 3 lives. So come show your Clemson spirit and help out our local hospitals. You can also give blood at USC at the Russell House on Green Street. Bloodmobiles will also be set up from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday at the Thomas Cooper Library, Tuesdays and Friday at the Darla Moore School of Business, and Wednesdays at the Colonial Life Arena, and Thursday at the Greek Village. The past 4 years in a row, South Carolina has won the annual blood drive, but Clemson leads it 14-13. All blood types are needed. You got to weigh 110 pounds and be in generally good health. Call 803-331-3629 or visit redcrossblood.org/SC for more information. And I think there's probably a lot of Clemson Tiger fans out there hoping that we'll be drawing some blood November the 24th, the day the pitchfork returns against the South Carolina Gamecocks, but you can't look ahead just yet. You really have to keep your mind focused, especially this team, but I think they've done a really good job of that so far. And Dabo Swinney, says that I think we're built to make a run. It's been a process. You look at 2009, 2010, 2011, lots of hurdles. But there's lots of things that they've accomplished, and the guys on this team have accomplished them together, and they've also faltered together. And they've learned from that. But they are developing, as Dabo says, consistency and the expectation to win. The fan base has had the expectation for a long time. The fan base has come into a lot of seasons and looked at the schedule and said, you know what, we're better than every team on our schedule except for maybe 1 or 2. But what did you have? Seasons with 4, 5 losses. Everybody coming out of the season 7-5 saying that's unacceptable. That's not Clemson Tiger football. I didn't grow up with that. That wasn't the way we were when I was in college in the 80s. That's what people were saying. But for whatever reason, 13-12 losses to Maryland, losses to Duke, losses to Wake Forest, games you should not lose against teams with inferior talent, have suddenly disappeared from Clemson's schedule. Dabo Swinney and this team have done that. They've added the key, the wide receiving core, not that long ago. 2010, at the end of that season, the wide receiving core was one of the worst in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Swinney addressed it, brings in a ton of talent, and now, with or without DeAndre Hopkins next year, you've got a great group of guys. And even with the numbers that Hopkins has put up, I think you still, I know I said before that he's probably gone because he can't duplicate these numbers again. But I've often wondered, with a guy who's basically playing in his hometown, will that be enough of an influence to keep? Will that be enough of an influence to keep him in Clemson? I mean, this is a career year. Was he 62 receptions? 1,037 yards? 13 touchdowns? I mean, in 9 games? Corey in the chat room says Nuke will stay. He's second in the nation in touchdown receptions. He had 3 in about a 7-minute and 45-second span against Duke. And every time you turn around, it seems like DeAndre Hopkins is in the end zone. He is so good right now, so locked in. And it only makes things better when the wheels start churning, when you start seeing other guys getting involved. Bryant, Peak making a couple of touchdown catches here and there. You got Watkins stepping his game up. I saw a post on TigerNet too, and I've got to mention this because it was absolutely fantastic. And it was a picture, or actually a post about the South Carolina Gamecocks and their wide receiver stats compared to the stats of Sammy Watkins. And right now Watkins is playing in basically 5.5 games, has better wide receiving numbers than any wide receiver at South Carolina right now. Obviously the offenses are quite different, but you can see that, or you can see why I think Clemson fans are feeling very confident about this game against South Carolina if the offensive line can protect. Be a hero, Clemson Tom says, and lead the 2013 Tigers to a BCS championship. I don't think many people would disagree with the fact that next year, if everybody returns who is eligible to return, that this team will be one that is talked about nationally as a national championship contender. I don't think the conversation can be avoided. And it's one where I've said since the middle of the season, basically, that if ESPN is going to address the SEC all the time, what you have to do, much like Oregon, is make them talk about you. And if that means that you have to blow people apart, you do that each and every week. You do not let up. You just can't afford to do so. Speaking of the SEC, before we get out here to break, I took a blind test. CBSSports.com had a blind test for me to judge, or for you to judge, who should be playing in the national championship. When I took it, I came up with Alabama and Kansas State. I put that link in the chat room there for everybody involved. I see Mike, our good friend, at Bent0 on Twitter checking in with us. If you go there, you can take that challenge. Clemson Tom says he got K-State and Notre Dame. But I chose K-State and Alabama. So maybe there's not as much bias towards the SEC because when I looked at it blind, I did pick Alabama. But I think you could probably argue that they are the one legitimate, unbelievably legitimate team perhaps in that league. But even they, if you think everybody else is down, haven't really played anybody. Can Texas A&M challenge them this weekend? And wait just a second. What's this I see? From the PS3 simulation that Sammy O'Neal sends me each and every week. I know you guys think it's Watkins, but it's O'Neal. Virginia Tech beat FSU. Stop the presses. We might have something to talk about here on the program, as only one team in the Atlantic Coast Conference in the past 10 years has finished with only one loss at the end of the regular season. There are two teams right now. We'll tell you who that one team was. If you listen to the program, you already know it. We'll be back with more TigerNet Talk right after this.
Cartwheel sunsets. I wanted to be just like Jeff Davis when I grew up, tackling Seminoles and Bulldogs, playing football in the mud. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981.
Do you suffer from a chronic case of the woohoo during football games? Do your Saturdays sound something a bit like this? Well, TigerNet Talk is out to fix that. If we can band together, we can change this reoccurring issue. With a simple Go Tigers, Go Tigers Go, you can make a difference. Ban the woohoo. Do yourself a favor. And as always, Go Tigers. Take your business to the next level with innovative website design from Foodog Media. Foodog can handle all your web, graphic, and social media needs. Call them today, 843-864-9268. That's 843-864-9268. Mention this ad and receive 10% off of your website. Foodog is a Clemson-owned business. See their portfolio at www.foodogmedia.net. May the food be with you. G-Dog General Dentistry at Oak Grove is located on Highway 1 near the Barnyard Flea Market. Modern, relaxing dentistry with TVs and headphones in every room, nitrous and even oral sedation. Digital diagnostic x-rays for better quality and 85% less radiation exposure. And check out their new Clemson Patient Special. Mention that you heard about G-Dog here on the Clemson Sports Talk programs and receive an extra 5% off all services through football season. If you don't have a regular dentist, go see my dentist, Dr. Rick Jackson at G-Dog. That's General Dentistry at Oak Grove.
Hate the thought of shopping? All that hassle and can't find what you're looking for anyway? We understand. Retail stores make it difficult. Instead, try www.edistooutdoors.com. Edisto Outdoors features performance apparel and gear engineered for performance, comfort, and style. EdistoOutdoors.com. You'll enjoy the shopping and you'll enjoy the products. Great products from people who care.
Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that.
We turned up, we run down the hill, we so turned up. Run the rock, hit the field, no competition, we first up. Offense is too fast, defense ain't scared, boy. Line up against me, we drop you on your head, boy. Death Valley be jumping, whole stadium pumping. Best fans in the whole nation, and damn right we love them. C-L-E-M-S-O-N, we Clemson, we ballin', we all in.
Oh, yeah. Man, those guys, they absolutely crushed it. It's funny, though, because I told you we were going to try and go old school, and had we gotten in touch with Perry Tuttle, still waiting to hear from him. I did send him a text message, so he should be calling us here any moment. If you've ever been to a game, though, in Charlotte, you know this. One, as the chat room can attest, the Bobcats are not very good. Some even said when I asked if the game was over, they said the game was over at the tip. But 2, the cellular service in the building there in downtown Charlotte is awful. I mean, it is terrible. Really bad. The good news is, though, for you guys, and we probably need to do this one. We probably will need to do this next interview that I'm lining up for you. You'll probably want me to do a video interview of this one. I know we had video of Clemson Tom, and that, people are always clamoring to have that one back. Everybody wants to see Clemson Tom on the program again. We're working on Perry. I see B. Meist in the chat room. He went to the basketball game. For all I know, it's in overtime. If somebody can check, see what's going on with the Bobcats game. Miss South Carolina, Allie Rogers, is going to be on the program in the next couple of weeks. So you'll probably want that to be a video version of the show. Even though the video is a little bit down right now on vocal, the quality has dipped a little bit. The YouTube version should be quality, to say the least. Clemson has turned the ball over a couple of times. Clemson Tom just wants me to let Allie know that he's sorry he hasn't called her back yet. Clemson's turned the ball over recently, but the past 8 times they have given up 0 points. Tom claims it's true. I believe him. You got to trust that guy. That guy, he's in the know. The Tigers currently lead the league as well in red zone offense and red zone defense, efficiently moving the ball, staying at the top of the charts nationally in third down conversions. And that's big for this offense. Chad Morris has stressed it from the beginning of the game. This is something that's important to him, not getting those 3 and outs. Chad Morris, I think you could argue, has been the biggest difference maker. You could talk Sammy Watkins, you can talk DeAndre Hopkins, you can talk Taj Boyd, tight end play that we've had the past couple of years, Brandon Ford, the way he stepped up this year in Dwayne Allen's absence. I mean, we can talk about all the offensive weapons, everything that's there. But I've never felt like Clemson has lacked athletes. And I said it before. There have been so many teams out there that we have had the ability to beat, but we've let them off the hook. We've been better than these teams. Since Morris has gotten there, though, it has not happened that way very frequently. The man is a mastermind, a real mastermind. And I know there are people every week posting, can we keep this guy? Is this guy going to leave? In my gut, I think he's going to be around for a little while longer. I don't think he's somebody who's going to go right from high school and a couple of years later bounce up into the head coaching position and the pressure behind that. He's making $1.3 million, and he doesn't have to take a whole lot of heat. It's a perfect place to be. Scoop in the chat room says money talks. It certainly does. But he's making $1.3 million right now. It would have to be a significant program who comes after him and opens up their wallets. And you could probably think of some. Arkansas right now. Auburn, if something were to happen there with Gene Chizik. You can imagine all the programs around the country that would like to get their hands on him. I guarantee you the Texas Longhorns would like to have a shot at him if they could. Get him back to their home state, to his home state. Tennessee. Mike in the chat room says, how about Kentucky? But I don't think those are jobs that he's going to want right now. I don't think he wants to get into what's going on at Tennessee, Arkansas, Auburn, or Kentucky. And that's a positive because most of the time that jump into the SEC is a good one. You can typically land at a school where you can be successful if you want to, especially if he has a couple more years at Clemson that are this great. Maybe there's an opening at a school like LSU down the road. Maybe there's an opening at Florida. I really don't see him being a guy who's going to leave for a mid-tier SEC job. It's going to have to be a legitimate SEC job to get him. Now, I know I ran a little bit of that audio earlier from Tiger Fever, Ode to the Paws and Claws, and I was talking about great head coaches. How about Coach Danny Ford, Perry Tuttle's coach? Still waiting on Perry Tuttle here. Let me give you a little snippet of this song about Coach Ford from that same album.
Coach Ford, I wrote this song for you. I'm singing from my heart. There's something special in your style. I've known it from the start. Oh, listen up, we won't give up. We'll soon be number one. We'll be grinning from ear to ear when the football season's done.
Now, the odd thing about this album is as bad as that is in this day and age, when I was a kid, we'd pop that tape in, listen to that record at the house. It was great. As bad as that audio quality is right now, I want to tell you, this was before the national championship, and these guys were singing about winning the national championship. And when I was a kid, I think I got the album back in like 1984. I really thought, and I'm not even kidding you, that the album had just come out and it was kind of singing about the past and that we were going to win the national title again. But this happened the year of the national championship. Speaking of Coach Ford, I want to ask the people in the chat room this. Danny Ford right now is in the Ring of Honor underneath the 1981 national championship team. Chat room, just a quick opinion. Would you like to see his name come down from the 1981 national championship team and be up there with the Block C hat? That's my question for the chat room right now. Firing away. It is, of course, yes. So far, everybody in the chat room would like to have Danny Ford. Affirmative. I agree. I mean, look, when you look at what Danny Ford was able to accomplish in his time at Clemson, and I know there's the scandal that surrounded it to some degree, plus the way he was dismissed that upset a lot of people, but you're talking about really putting Clemson football on the map. You're talking about a man who, you know, we give a lot of credit to Frank Howard. He had that longevity in his career. You look at the 1978 season, the way it ended with Woody Hayes in the Gator Bowl, Danny Ford in his first game, and then just a couple of years later, that team under the youngest head coach to ever win a national championship. I think that says something about Danny Ford, that at that young of an age, he was able to motivate these men. And maybe it was because he could relate to them a little bit more. Maybe it was because he came from kind of the old school, coming from Alabama, same place that Dabo Swinney's from. The understanding of the legacy of Alabama and the national championships. And I don't think we can ever undervalue the fact that Dabo Swinney also has that national championship ring from Alabama. Scoop White sends a shout out to Tiger Ray, and I got to send this out to one more break. We're going to do everything we can, everything to get in touch with Perry Tuttle during this break. We are also going to do whatever we can to get the interview done tonight. And if we have to, we can always pop it into the show later. I really wanted to get him on here live because I know some of you had such great questions for him. Chris, leave your question in the chat room no matter what, and I will talk with him about it. We definitely want to get Perry Tuttle in here, though. I got to make a couple of phone calls to try and scrounge him up, trying to get him in here. I know you're waiting for him. So many people in the chat room wanting to hear from Perry Tuttle. What they call him here in Sports Illustrated? The Orange Bowl hero of Clemson. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
He was hanging in a corner like a candy ball and chain. It wasn't nothing she ever thought about. Didn't know it was gone the day she moved out. In my head, if I pointed it just right.
We scoop the boot, dutycalls.com. When nobody else will do it, dutycalls.com. To make that dog poop go away, call or click for a free quote today.
When nature calls, we answer. To get a free quote for dog poop removal, go to dutycalls.com now.
DOODYCALLS. Dutycalls.com.
In the Midlands area, dial 1-800-DUTY-CALLS. They're number one and number two. Enjoy the Clemson football season at Seasons by the Lake Restaurant. Tiger Tailgate on the Terrace at Seasons Restaurant will be held every Clemson football game day, rain or shine, home or away, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for those day games and noon to midnight for the evening kickoffs. Enjoy a large screen TV, a Bloody Mary and mimosa bar, specialty drinks, and a great tailgate menu, all on the Seasons Terrace. For more information, call 656-7444 or visit their Facebook page, facebook.com/Seasons by the Lake. I hope to see you on the terrace. Take your business to the next level with innovative website design from Foodog Media. Foodog can handle all your web, graphic, and social media needs. Call them today, 843-864-9268. That's 843-864-9268. Mention this ad and receive 10% off of your website. Foodog is a Clemson-owned business. See their portfolio at www.foodogmedia.net. May the food be with you. Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that. Hey there, Clemson Tiger fans. If you're interested in advertising with Clemson Podcasts, go to ClemsonPodcasts.com and click on the advertising link. And as always, go Tigers!
In 81, the Tiger goal is to win the championship. Climb to the top of the football poles, win us a bowl game trip. Like Jack and the Beanstalk, the ladder's hard to climb. But we've been up on top before, and we'll be there one more time.
All right, there we go. Now that's old school, Ty. Climbing the ladder to the top of the ACC. We'll be... I'll stop. I really can't sing at all. I think you probably know that by now. All right, here's what we did. We texted, we called, we did everything we can do. The last thing I heard from Perry was earlier today that he would be here. I don't doubt he will make it. I'm still holding out hope. We still got a good bit of the show to get through. David says no need for Swan to stress. No stress here at the Clemson Sports Talk World Headquarters, as they call it. I'll tell you what, one thing we can do is this. We will go ahead and give away that Vostok cooler. That's VOSTOK, coolers.com. All right, here's the criteria for winning the Vostok cooler. 1, you have to be on Twitter, obviously. 2, I need you to make sure that when you tweet about this, you tweet a hashtag TNTalk. That's a hashtag TNTalk. And also hashtag Vostok, VOSTOK, coolers.com. So VOSTOK. All you need to do is hashtag Vostok and hashtag TNTalk. Here's the website. I'm putting it in the show right there for you. We've already given away one. Chad Rainwater, his is on arrival, coming to him. Football cooler. You can get your logo on there if your kid plays Pee Wee football. And by the way, somebody posted a video on TigerNet of a little girl, like 9 or 10 years old, playing Pee Wee football against boys and just killing them. I mean, just 1,100 yards, 35 touchdowns, something ridiculous. I kind of got bored with the video, but I did learn that watching Pee Wee football, for some reason they filmed it in like 2 times speed, so it's kind of like old school Babe Ruth. Icebox from the Little Giants. The annexation of Puerto Rico. When that little kid blows a snot bubble in that movie out of his nose, that is hilarious. That's fantastic. But watching kids play Pee Wee football in 2 times the speed or Babe Ruth kind of speed is hilarious. It's probably worth going in there. I think Bryant Tiger was the one who posted it sometime this afternoon. Go in there and check it out. Of course, you're listening to TigerNet Talk. I'm your host, Lawton Swan. Glad to have you with us. Let me tell you about the giveaway. We're giving away a Vostok cooler, VOSTOK. Make sure you put in hashtag T and Talk. Look, and that's for anybody. You can be somebody listening to the podcast edition of the show. You can be listening live, watching the YouTube video. I don't care how you do it. The first person to tweet to me, hashtag T and Talk, hashtag Vostok, the number of yards that Perry Tuttle had receiving in the Orange Bowl, first person to tweet that to me correctly will be the winner of the Vostok cooler. And we'll make that announcement on Twitter and also on Clemson Hotline Sunday at 9 p.m. who got it in first and who won. Willie Vanilli on Twitter says it may be true that you can't always get what you want, but it's never because of the lack of trying. You're probably right. I've tried everything I can to get Perry Tuttle on here with us. I appreciate Crump and B. Meist over at TigerNet for making sure we were live on the front page for everybody who's going to the website. Really wanted to get Perry on with us this evening. It may be Sunday if we don't hear from him here in the next couple of minutes. We are at about 47 minutes into the program. We like to go about 55, so we've got about 8 minutes. If he comes on, though, we're going to carry it over. Clemson leads the all-time series against Maryland 32-26-2 and 17-3 all-time at Clemson. The first meeting goes back to 1952, the year before these two teams entered the Atlantic Coast Conference. Maryland won that meeting 28-0. The last meeting, of course, last year was a barn burner at College Park. Clemson winning at 56-45. A little bit of a coming out party part 2, I think, or 3. Could have been even coming out party part 4 at that point for Sammy Watkins, as he had an unbelievable second half for the Clemson Tigers. They win at 56-45 in a game that I think shocked a lot of people. It was one of those moments when Clemson had maybe let their guard down a little bit. When you look at the back end of the schedule last year and the way Clemson struggled after falling to 8-1, whereas this year improving to 8-1, it feels quite different at this point. And given the fact, every time I think about that Florida State game and being up 14 points and coming up short, it is more than frustrating. And the last time I remember being up 14 points and losing was against the South Carolina Gamecocks in Clemson. The Tigers up 28-14. The Gamecocks going to win 31-28. Hopefully what Clemson learned in that game against Florida State this year will help them in these remaining few home games. I would almost be willing to say conserve your voices for the final game of the season if that's necessary. Taking a look here, we've got some people tweeting in with hashtag TNTalk and hashtag Vostok. Still looking for the total yards receiving by Perry Tuttle in that national championship game, where he made the catch that sealed the deal for the Clemson Tigers. The past 10 ball games, however, between Maryland and Clemson have been split. And that last team to finish the Atlantic Coast Conference regular season with only one loss was, of course, Maryland back in 2001. I mentioned that earlier. Clemson and Florida State still on pace for that, and it's still possible, perhaps, for both teams to pull off that feat. David says he does not have a Twitter. You know what, David? That's all right. It's not too late. You can come on board Twitter. It's a pretty neat place once you get used to it. There is a significant learning curve. A real if somebody could find a good user's guide, I think maybe tips and tricks for David. Did you know this fact, though? Clemson has had a kickoff return against Maryland the past 3 times they've played. C.J. Spiller had a 92-yard return at Maryland in 2009. In 2010, it was Andre Ellington's 87-yard kick return. And then, of course, Sammy, you can't touch him. At least that's what Clemson Tom tells me. Watkins taking one back for an 89-yard kickoff return. It's the only time in Clemson history that the Tigers have had a kickoff return for scores against the same team for 3 years straight. I look at this one. I think about Maryland's offense. Their defense has been good. They lost their leading tackler, though, on the defensive side of the ball. As I said before, I've got a lot of faith right now in this Clemson Tiger offense. I mentioned the PS3 predictions brought to us by Sammy O'Neill. Virginia Tech did beat FSU in his simulation. Total yards in this one, Clemson had 345. The numbers were way down. That's typically a half for the Tigers. 258 total yards for Maryland. And if you've tweeted into the program with your answer, hashtag TNTalk, with a hashtag Vostok on there as well, don't worry, we certainly didn't miss it. And they come in order by time, so they are time-stamped for us. So we'll know who won. We're going to announce it, like I said, on Clemson Hotline, and we'll also put it out on Twitter after the program, who won that Vostok cooler. But you can get all kinds, as I was saying earlier. Let me get back to that real quick. If you got a Pee Wee League team, I kind of got off track. They've got one with the blackboard side. You can write whatever you want. If your team are the Cheetahs, maybe because they cheat a lot, you can do that, or the Ladybugs, whatever your team's name is, you can write it on there, or you can go and find your own Clemson one. They are working on their college licensing right now, so this is not licensed apparel. There are some teams that they do have the licensing from. Clemson is not one of them, but they do have Clemson-themed football coolers right now, VostokCoolers.com. Pretty awesome stuff. Taj Boyd was 19 of 34, 171 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Andre Ellington rushed the ball 22 times for 83 yards, 1 touchdown. Boyd carried the ball again 12 times for 20 yards, and DJ Howard had 12 carries for 67 yards. The wide receiving core, though, again, it was Nuke Hopkins, 5 grabs for 28 yards and 2 touchdowns. Watkins had 7 catches for 74 yards. Brandon Ford, 3 catches for 24 yards. Jerron Brown, 3 grabs for 43 yards. Stephon Diggs, who is an electric wide receiver for the Maryland Terrapins, did have 1 catch for 31 yards. Watch out for him, though, in the kick and punt return game. He is a significant threat offensively. He is, when you look at these teams, there's typically 1 or 2 players on a lot of them that I would say, we need that guy. We could use that guy. Stephon Diggs is a guy that would fit in well at Clemson and in this system. Much like there are other players around the country from each team, he's the one, if you had to go to Maryland and pick somebody right now that you could take off of their team and put him on yours, it would be Stephon Diggs. True freshman there, having a really good season, a really good start to his career. One thing I did like before we get into our prediction about this, that Dabo Swinney said, he was asked this week about FSU and Virginia Tech playing. I see a lot of people in the chat room talking about that. Dabo said, we don't control that. We really have not got very emotional about things we don't control. When you get emotional about stuff like that, that's when you have issues. External issues are distractions. Our daily preparation, our commitment, our execution, our performance, attention to details, that's what our guys are focused on. If Florida State beats Virginia Tech Thursday night, nothing changes for Clemson. If Virginia Tech wins, we still have a ball game to win. Nothing changes. That shouldn't impact our performance one bit. We don't pay much attention to it. Obviously, everybody will be watching, but in regards to this game, it has nothing to do with it. Really like where Dabo Swinney's head is right now. Really like where he's got this team right now. It's obvious, I think, to everyone out there that this Clemson Tiger team has a real shot this year at something special. Maybe the national championship is out of the picture. I think most of us can agree to that point. But when we've seen this team execute, when we've seen them running at all cylinders, and defensively they appear to be getting better. As I've said before, some of that may have to do with the competition. Let me tell you, if you're in the chat room, here's what's going down. We're going to exit the program. We're going to keep things rolling live on Vocal for a few more minutes. We're going to try to get Perry. We're going to do the interview. We're going to pump it back into the program. So it will be on the podcast edition if we get him. But when I look at this game, it is offensive. It is a team that has not played at home in a while and a fan base that's ready to get rolling. You've got a 3:30 kickoff in a time where it starts to get a little bit dark. The stadium will be electric for the first time this year against a team that will be overmatched. Expect the Clemson defense to force a couple of turnovers and cause a lot of havoc for the Maryland offense. And I truly believe that this Clemson Tiger team is going to score big time again. I've been close twice. I may be far off this time, but my prediction is your Clemson Tigers rolling it up. There's going to be free Bojangles or free Taco Bell for everybody in the arena. The Clemson Tigers win it 47-14, a blowout in Death Valley. I guarantee it. Y'all take care now, and go Tigers!